So in the last tutorial we studied how we can do the data binding for the member variable, which is a class inside another class. So in today's tutorial we'll be studying about some another feature of Spring MVC, that is the editor classes, property editor classes, built-in property editor classes provided by Spring MVC and its usage. So till now I give you a brief idea about the property editor classes as one of my tutorial. What actually property editor classes are: whenever the user is entering a URL, say this one, and it shows trainingform.html, the request goes over here, it shows the JSP file, and when it clicks on submit, then model attribute is binding the form elements which are there with the bean class member variables. We discussed that we don't need to take care of the data type, like if it is a string type value, it will automatically bind it to that particular member variable. Take care of it. What actually happened behind the scene is when it doing the model attribute is doing the data binding, it is calling the property editor class for each data type. Suppose the student name is there, this is what string. So in training from application, when I am entering this string, so it is calling a string property editor class, whatever the name may be of this, which is provided by Spring MVC, and binding it to the string value only. And if error occurs, it shows the error. No, we cannot bind it, it's an invalid syntax. Similarly, if it is of date type, it is calling a date property editor class and binding it to that particular value, or else showing up me the error. So behind the scene, the property editor classes are being called internally by Spring MVC architecture. We don't need to call those property editor classes. But let's say there comes a requirement, like here the date is accepting only one format, we cannot provide the another format. If the format is being some other format is being provided, it shows me an error. So in that scenario, I want to change the built-in property editor class, that is a date property editor class, and tell that property editor class that now the format should not be the default, but rather the format which user want to provide. So we will be modifying that property editor classes and use it in my Spring MVC application. So how that is done? For that we have to use two annotations, that is the web data binder, that is an init binder annotation, and a web data binder interface. So let's see how that is being used. Init binder annotation, you need to import this web data binder now. So these two things you need to use, the web data binder and the init binder annotation at the top of a method. Now here I'll say binder dot register custom editor, which class, date dot class, and which field you want to edit, you need to provide that also, that is my date of birth. Okay, let's first change the format, then I'll register this. Now I don't want the date format to be the 09/11/1998. I want the format to be this. Now it will not, if I register this to my property editor, then while doing the data binding, it will take this format. So how that needs to be done, let's do it. We'll have a simple date format. You can just provide the pattern, that is dd mm y. I want this pattern to be accepted. So now I need to do binder.register custom editor date.class dob and my property editor which I want to be called. So just create an object of the property editor. You will do this. You'll get the multiple options, that is custom date editor. So this is my property editor which is being to be called. What format I want to pass, that is the, you can just name this as meaningful name. Let's create format. So we'll be passing the format. You don't want it to be empty, so you can just set it to false. It's by default set it to false only. Okay, so now I have registered my property editor class but with the another format. Otherwise it was calling this property editor only custom date editor while doing the data binding but with the default format. But now I have changed the format, and while doing the data binding this format only will be accepted and not the other format. Let's see the running of this. We have restarted the server and saved all the changes which we did in the Java class file. Only one file needs to be modified, that is a training application form, wherever we are calling this. Let me enter some other format which I was giving earlier and see if it accepts. Now I've entered the default format. Let's submit. No, it's an error, so it shows me the form again. So let's now, because data was when it is calling the custom date editor property editor class behind it, then it is seeing, oh, now the format is changed, now this needs to be called. So another format is being specified, so that needs to be done. What was that? dd mm yy. Let's just do another bit of it and submit the form. Yes, the form is being submitted successfully. So this is how the property editor class, built-in property editor classes. Spring MVC is provided multiple built-in property editor classes which you can modify and tell the requirement and change it. So let's just understand how this is being called. So first it enters the training form.html. So it goes to this controller class. Before going to this training form, again it needs to go to the model attribute annotation and see the common objects and add it automatically to all the request handler methods. And it goes to this training form.html and it shows me the JSP file, and where user enters the value and it goes to submit form.html. It comes over here. While doing this data binding with the student bean class, it sees if there is any init binder annotation in my controller class or not. Yes, we have an init binder annotation, and there it sees now for the custom date editor data binding we need to use another format and then bind it. So at this point of time it checks for the init binder annotation and then use that particular binding you can say logic to bind the particular value to the bean class. And then if there is no error, it shows me the training success.jsp, and if error, a training form.jsp. So this is how the property editor classes are being called. So two annotations studied: init binder and web data binder. So you can check for the multiple property editor classes which is present on the Spring MVC website. We have multiple built-in Spring MVC property editor classes over there.